welcome back to another week of Smash Mouthing Football, and I'm here with our UK-based journalist Conor Parrott to preview the Week 7 of the NFL. Well, Conor, how are you getting on?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, load of sports going on, but we're still enjoying the NFL here.
Yeah, there were a lot of surprise results, particularly in the NFC, with the 49ers and the Eagles losing. What did you make of that?
Yeah, it was a bit shocking there to the last two undefeated teams losing their O, but I'm not making too big of a deal out of it. I think the Browns and Jets are two similar teams. I think they're two of the best defenses in the league with some underwhelming offenses. So I think they met their match that day on some away days, but I think they'll come back, and I think some you got to lose at some point, and it's maybe good to lose a bit early on so you can sort of wake yourself up a little bit.
I thought the 49ers made a big mistake, especially Debo starting that kind of fight before the game. It kind
Hmm.
of gave the Browns, especially when you're in an away ground. The last thing you want is, the people watching to be, really invested in the game. And I think a fight always produces that. Um, they should save starting fights till when they're at home, and then they get their own home crowd against them. But why? What do you think? Why do you think the 49ers? What did the Browns do to the 49ers? Do you think to upset them this week?
Yeah, I mean, well, they lost some injury. They had some injuries in the game, which quite probably made him a bit uneasy. Changed the game plan up. I think Trent Williams went down. He came back in, which was very surprising because it looked like a really bad injury. That, but Christian McCarthy, he's down there as well, and Debo, like you said before his fight. So I think, like I said, that's going to change the game plan when you lose two of your biggest playmakers and one of your best offensive linemen. That's having to guard Miles Garrett. That's going to make things a lot harder. So I think I worry about them with the injuries. We don't know too long how long they're going to be out for, but they missed some field goals at the end as well there. So Jake Moody missed two field goals. If he makes one of those, they win the game. So it's fine margins.
I think when one of the favourites lose, it kind of gives a bit of hope to every other team. Um,
Mm.
and it was interesting how the Browns with Jim Swartz, their defensive coordinator, you had their defensive ends kind of lining up very wide, and maybe that would be a blueprint for other teams to follow up going forward. And with the Eagles Jets, that was for me an even bigger surprise considering the Jets, they were kind of like they were missing a few big players heading into that game, um, and they deserved to win. What did you make of that game?
Yeah, the Eagles lost, which is a bit surprising. I mean, I think their play compared to last year's gone down just a little bit. I mean, their defense on DVLA is down to 13, which last year they were one of the best defenses in the league. So losing both coordinators is certainly upset them a little bit. Things aren't as smooth as they were last year. So I think there's definitely some reason to be worried in that sense. But the NFC East with the Cowboys, it's going to be a tasty one.
Yeah, yeah. The Eagles have been they really were demolishing teams last year, and this year they seem to be just getting over the line in a few games. And this is one game where the other team kind of like finished ahead. Um, their offensive line is still the best in the league, but I think you're right. I think the coaching has had an effect because the Eagles' offense doesn't look as dynamic. Last year, you never knew when Hurts was going to run with the ball. His different weapons were showing up at different times, and at the moment, seem to be relying a bit too much on AJ Brown and that brotherly shove. I think as teams get a bit more clued into how to defend against it, that should have an impact as the season goes on. But in terms of the NFC East, yeah, I think you've the Eagles on 5 wins, you've the Cowboys on 4 wins, and you've Washington on 3 wins.
Yeah, I shouldn't forget about your Commanders.
Well, I really don't know which team's going to turn up. It's it's very it's like a roller coaster supporting them. Sam Howell was very good at the weekend, but again, the Falcons had double the amount of ball that we had, and Sam Howell was still. I think if the statistics run true as they have run through for the first 6 weeks, Sam Howell would have been sacked 97 times, which is just unbelievable. Really, like he's going to
Not
be.
sustainable.
It is unsustainable. He's going to get a very bad injury. But he's playing very well. We have a very poor offensive line, and our defense stepped up last week, which was good to see. Considering the previous week against the Bears, they were awful, really, really awful. And Emmanuel Forbes, our first round pick, has been dropped. So I was giving them the benefit of the doubt a few weeks ago, but that's out the window at the moment. And I think we've the Giants at the weekend, which should be an even enough match. I think it's one I'm hoping we can go out and win. But of the 5-1 teams in the NFC East or the NFC, we have the 49ers, we have the Eagles, and we have the Detroit Lions, who they're no longer in the shadows anymore. Everybody's looking at them front and center, and they do look like a team that will be competing in the postseason. What did you make of their game against the Bucks at the weekend?
Yeah, it was a good game really, and it was a close game. I felt at half time the Tampa was actually sort of the better team, and but it was a gritty performance at the end. Like I said, it was a back and forth game, and the defense really held strong, and then Jared Goff in the second half just played one of the best half of footballs I've seen from a quarterback in the Lions against a really good Buccaneers defense, or pass defense in particular. So yeah, the Lions, everything's going smoothly right now, and a lot of it's to do with Jared Goff, which is surprising, but the defense as well. I think I'm really happy with how things are going in the D.
Jameson Williams was back for the first time as well.
Yeah,
The
this
first
was
one.
he had limited snaps the previous week, but yeah, he was in a bit more of a role this week, and he had that big touchdown after he just dropped. He had two drops just before that, and I think drops have been a little bit of an issue with him. And then yeah, he went and caught the big tricky one, which everyone celebrated, and it just shows what he is to this offense. That little deep threat that he can offer. It creates so much that a safety now has to watch out for that, because he has speed on like cover, and it opens up the whole offense for this really.
And one of the biggest improvements this year has been in defense. Where I don't know where the Lions are ranked in terms of DVLA at the moment, but their defenses, they're a top 10 defense. What has made the difference?
Really, it's been the run defense. I think the first year under Campbell and Aaron Glenn, who's the DC, they were 32nd in run defense, and then last year we were 30th, and now this year we're probably the best run defense in the league with Philly. And I think a lot of it has to do with the interior. We've had some under not under guys, but some guys like Benito Jones, who was just kicking about, who's now been really good, and Isaiah Buggs as well, and the guys on the edge as well. They're holding their own. I think our linebackers has been what's really improved the most. I think that's a lot to do with the D line, but guys like Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes, and Jack Campbell, the first round pick, his snaps have been going up every week and he's been performing. These guys are really helping in the run game, and it's forcing people into passing situations. And I think we've gone up against not the best quarterbacks. Like you look at Baker Mayfield, Bryce Young, and Jordan Love. So we've had the benefit of the doubt there. But yeah, stopping this run has really been what's helped the Lions the most.
Yeah, it must be an exciting season to be a Lions fan.
Hmm.
So I'm going to switch over to the team that people are called the Lions of the AFC, the Jacksonville Jags, who were kind of an under the radar team last year, but there's a lot more expectation on this season after getting to the playoffs and having a playoff win. A few weeks ago, you were kind of questioning Trevor Lawrence. You weren't that convinced about how he was playing. Do you feel this? Do you still feel the same?
No, yes, I think I owe the Jaguars an apology really, but they've come out and beat the Bills in London and then dominated the Colts, so they get an apology there. But it's kind of the performances that, like I said, I was expecting them. I think they were 2-2 at the time of me saying that, and I said this team needs to show me that it's a 10+ win team, and the last two games they've done that for sure.
Yeah, they seem to be spreading the ball around a little bit more. I think in the early weeks they were kind of trying to find Calvin Ridley all the time. Well, I think in the last 2 weeks especially, they've gone back to the run game has been good. They've gone back to the tight end, and Kristen Kirk has kind of got more targets. Um, what do you think is the strength of the Jags team?
I think it's Travis Etienne in one player there. I think he's been a guy that's not been able to stay too healthy the last couple of years, but this year he's been a full workhorse, bell cow running back that you want. He's been their main guy, and it's the Clemson duo, Trevor Lawrence and Etienne. We're seeing that again, and yeah, he's been helping them in the run game, the pass game, and I think he's been a star. He's been a guy that I've been desperately trying to get in fantasy, and now he's blowing up.
Yeah, he's been sensational, and especially in London. I think he had a really good game in London last year, and his two matches in London this year, he was by far the best player on show. Let's transition to the Jags defense. Um, what do you? They have some very very good players on the roster, but what do you make of the defense so far this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a defense that's getting a lot of turnovers, which is very helpful. They got, I think, 3 interceptions, was it, maybe against the Colts or along that line. So they're getting a lot of turnovers, which is always helpful. I think I worry a little bit about the D line. I don't think they create too much pressure. I think Josh Allen is a bit isolated, even with first overall pick Trayvon Walker. So I think with time, I would definitely like to see them maybe improve in the trenches, but yeah, that defense is getting turnovers, and that's really what you got to ask for.
Yeah, and they're coming up against the New Orleans Saints, who I don't know. I've even though they have 3 wins and 3 losses, I've been kind of disappointed. I thought Derek Carr might go there and slot in a bit easily. What do you make of this of the Saints so far?
Yeah, they've been a bit inconsistent. I think it's going to be a fun matchup because I think this Saints defense versus the Jags offense is going to be exciting, and that's what I've been most impressed with the Saints. And like I say, Kamara's come back into that offense, and he's getting a lot of targets, a lot of touches. So which is what you want. But yeah, they've been a team that's very inconsistent. They lost heavy to the Buccaneers, but then they went and won 34 on the Texans team where they could only put up 13 points. So I think consistency, and especially on the offense, is really what they need to start doing more.
Yeah, it's very surprising that Chris Olave, their number one receiver, I think he's only had one touchdown, and I think they're only averaging about 18 points, 18.2 points a game, um, which is I think it makes them the 24th highest offense in the NFL, which is not what really you associate with a New Orleans Saints team. It's kind of been their defense that has really stepped up. Their 2 DNs, Cam Jordan and Carl Granderson, who I'd never heard of before this season. They've really kind of stepped up. I think Granderson has 4.5 sacks in the year. I think he's 23 tackles, and they really seem to be putting pressure on opposing offenses. What do you make of the Saints defense?
Yeah, I think it's really strong, especially at the cornerback position. We know Marshawn Lattimore, we know what he can do, but I think the other side of the ball of Alontae Taylor, he's also been locked down for them. So I think they've been a team that's really stopping down the pass, and that'll be a good matchup for them against the Calvin Ridley, against the Christian Kirk, and against Evan Ingram. So they're a well run team. Dennis Allen, he was been DC at the Saints for a long time, so he knows what he's doing there. So I think offensively you want to see better stuff, but I think the matchup of the Saints defense is going to be really really exciting to watch.
What do you make of the Derek Carr experiment? He signed the long term deal in free agency. Um, how do you think it's going so far? Have you been impressed with how he's fitted in?
Yeah, I don't. I think a lot of people probably want to see better from him, especially with his contract. But I mean, I don't think he's. I wouldn't say he's a franchise quarterback as such, especially one that's going to win them games. We saw him in Vegas and with the Raiders for a while, and I think that was he feels like he has a ceiling. I think the offensive line has struggled for the Saints, and I think that's where it's hard because they've got the playmakers in Olave and Kamara, but yeah, when protection isn't holding up, I know the interior has been really poor for them, and they've got a development tackle on the left side. So you got to give him the benefit of the doubt because he is having to face defenses up in his face. But yeah, I think Derek Carr, you probably want to see a bit better from him. And I think the Saints might be in the market to maybe look for a younger guy that could maybe be better in the long term.
So let's go to prediction time. How do you think this one's going to shape out on Thursday night?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence, it's a bit up in the air. I assume he plays. I think he even said that in a press conference. So I'm gonna go off Lawrence's play, and then I think it'll be a low scoring one. It is in New Orleans, so that's going to make things harder. But yeah, I think maybe a low scoring affair where both teams under 20. But I do think the Jaguars, they've looked good the last 2 weeks, so I think they win in that sense.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Jaguars as well. I haven't really seen the Saints much. Haven't seen them in any live game, so I'm kind of looking forward to see how they get on Thursday night. But I think when the Jaguars on a roll, it's really hard to stop a team with momentum, and I think they'll get it done on Thursday night. But then again, if Trevor Lawrence is injured and CJ Beathard comes in, my opinion would change completely. So thank you, Conor, for your analysis once again, and let's hope it's a good game on Thursday night.
For sure, yes.